Pakistan's most volatile front line is on fire yet again. A wave of coordinated high-impact attacks has ripped through Balochistan. For those unaware, this is Pakistan's largest, poorest and most resource-rich province. Islamabad says it's actually a war on terror. But Baloch rebels are quite clear that this is a war for their survival. This isn't a new battle. This has been raging on for decades and decades. The Balochistan Liberation Army, which is the largest separatist outfit in Balochistan, claims over 200 Pakistani security personnel were killed in a multi-day offensive. A figure that Pakistan disputes but doesn't fully explain. There were women suicide bombers this time. Military installations have been hit. Chinese-backed projects across CPEC have been impacted completely. This is about who controls the land, the minerals, the ports, and of course the people. Let's break this down for you on the big wall. First and foremost, exactly the details of what the operation was all about and why China and Pakistan are in fact both completely in it together. They are both equal stakeholders, viewers, in what is happening in Balochistan. First and foremost, there were 12 districts that were hit simultaneously. As I said, a multi-day offensive planned to the T, and you can see the BLA rebels actually now upping the ante against Pakistani Army. Next up, 200 plus deaths. This is what has been claimed by BLA. Something that has been disputed by Pakistan, but the BLA says it has proof to back these claims. Some civilian casualties have been confirmed by Pakistan. As I said, these have been multiple attacks, large scale, coordinated across days. So, of course, Pakistan has conceded that some civilian casualties have in fact taken place. For the first time, suicide bombers were not just men but also women. There were female suicide attackers who were part of these operations that were done by the BLA this time around, indicating that the separatist movement in Balochistan is not just limited to a handful. As I said, this is a long-drawn conflict, and we're going to come to that also, viewers, to tell you the historical aspect of this. But first, I want to take you exactly why this is our top story this week. $60 billion of the China corridor, that is the China-Pakistan economic corridor, stands completely exposed. China knows that as things stand right now, if the BLA continues with these attacks, its $60 billion and counting is completely vulnerable, exposed, and could essentially mean that the crown and its jewel of BRI could be completely wiped out. Lastly, and equally important, Baloch minerals, gas, ports have been contested, and that's where the big story lies. Now, so what we are seeing right now is violence that's patterned, political, and deeply historical. Balochistan sits on gold, gas, copper, and yet remains Pakistan's most marginalized province. China is building ports here. You have the Gwadar port right here in Balochistan. Islamabad is deploying troops. But the Baloch, well, they say they've been left with nothing but graves, disappearances, and complete silence. To understand why today these recent attacks look so coordinated, so desperate, so deadly, we have to go back decades. Here's the story of Balochistan, the genesis and the ticking timeline that has brought Pakistan to this moment, with Asim Munir now losing not just sleep but also the prospect of keeping his country together.
Balochistan was absorbed into Pakistan in 1948 and resistance began almost immediately. Since then, 5 major uprisings, each bloodier than the last. The land is vast and the people are few, just 15 million in a country of 240 million. But beneath the soil lies enormous wealth. Gas, copper, gold, coal, and a coastline that holds Gwadar, China's prized Arabian Sea gateway. For decades, Baloch leaders have argued the deal was simple. Military checkpoints multiplied, human rights groups document enforced disappearance, mass arrests, and alleged extrajudicial killings. Then came China. The $60 billion China-Pakistan economic corridor promised roads, ports, power, but delivered only exclusion. Projects were heavily guarded, jobs were outsourced, and decisions began being made far from Baloch homes. As a fallout, militancy escalated. The Balochistan Liberation Army, now designated a terrorist group by Pakistan and others, shifted tactics. It pivoted from ambushes to suicide attacks and high coordination urban strikes. This week's offensive, dubbed Herof Phase 2 by the BLA, stunned Pakistan's security establishment.
किसी भी सूबे में इस तरह नहीं होता। ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ जनाब स्पीकर एक क्रिमिनल जो गैंग है, ये सारा जो ट्रेड है, स्मगलिंग है, ये सारी की सारी इलीगल ट्रेड जो है, उसका जो मिलिट्री विंग है, जो उनको प्रोटेक्शन प्रोवाइड करता है, वो बीएलए है, जो अपने आप को लिबरेशन आर्मी कहता है, वो चोरों की आर्मी है।
Islamabad acknowledges civilian and security force deaths, but disputes rebel numbers. And as Pakistan courts China and the United States with mineral deals and investment summits, Balochistan keeps sending the same message. You cannot extract stability without consent. The recent use of female fighters was a glaring example that it's not only Baloch men that are involved in the movement. But as Pakistan doubles down on security and rejects dialogue, the space for peace keeps shrinking. Balochistan remains rich in minerals and poor in trust. And until that gap is closed, this flashpoint isn't going anywhere.
Now, viewers, Balochistan issue remains unresolved because there are massive historical grievances due to resource control, political exclusion, and the Punjabi-dominated Pakistan Army's persistent hunting of Baloch leaders. And the Pak Army General Asim Munir has still not understood that the Baloch insurgency has led to a complete pullout of Chinese officials and a complete pause in the work at the Gwadar airport. And it's not just the port. The entire corridor, the China-Pakistan economic corridor, is now extremely vulnerable because Balochistan is unstable. And this realization is now going to impact ties between Pakistan and China. When China is pumping in money into Pakistan, it's because it wants its share of and pound of flesh. It wants those returns. With those returns unlikely, that sovereign relationship is now set to be deeply impacted going forward.